After my personal struggle with food left me sick and suicidal, I was struck with the realization that food alone can't fix us. So I set out to discover what could, and what I found changed everything. After coaching thousands of clients and interviewing the world's leading experts, I realized it was time to start a bigger conversation. What are you really hungry for?
It's great.
Ooh, good one.
What am I really hungry for?
I love that question.
It's time to discover what you're really hungry for. Love yourself. It'll make everything perfect and amazing. It'll make your days blissful and your problems much easier. Just love yourself. Have you ever heard this advice and thought, well, that sounds great, but how exactly do I do that? If so, you're not alone. The idea of loving yourself sounds great in theory, but how do you do that when you don't even like yourself? The first step in loving yourself is to first get to know who you are, the real you, not the person you think you should be to make others happy or to get them to approve of you. The you that you are at your core. And here's the interesting thing. You may not know. Most of us have been so busy going through the motions of becoming who other people want us to be that we've lost track of who we are. Think about it. Are you putting on an act for people so they'll like you more? Do you go along with others' opinions instead of voicing your own because you're afraid that if you disagree, they're going to stop liking you? And are you constantly thinking about what other people think of you, and then you try to do, say, or be what you think they will approve of? This is really common. No one wants to be different. No one wants to stand out. So we compromise who we are. Today, I invite you to get to know the real you. Ask yourself some questions like, what really makes me happy? What is my favorite color? If I could do anything today and money were no object, what would it be? What is my favorite food? Do I like wearing heels or would I rather be in flats? Start with these small things first. It'll get you comfortable with the process, and then you can dive deeper and ask yourself questions like, what is one thing that makes me unique? Do I really like my friends? What do I really believe about what a wife or a husband or a partner should be in a relationship? What would you do if no one would ever find out about it? And be honest. Tell the truth. You're the only one hearing the answers. This process of self-discovery can have a huge impact on your ability to start to love, accept, and appreciate yourself, which can awaken you to a world of happiness that you've never known before. Carl Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakes." My guest today is an expert on looking inside and awakening to self-love. Rose Cole is a spiritual leader who's helped thousands create thriving and awakened lives. And today, she's here to help you. So Rose, one of the things that we hear so much is to just love ourselves. You know, this thing can be taken care of and this thing can be taken care of if we just love ourselves. And I think that's great advice, but for those of us who maybe just don't love ourselves, I think it's a really hard message to hear. So where do we even begin? How do we begin to approve and love ourselves when we just don't?
Yes, I find that most of us are walking around with an empty self-love bank account. Mm-hmm. And it's like we're writing checks and we're just getting overdraft fees. And so what do we do to fill up our inner love tank? This, I know, for me has been a lifelong journey of loving myself and really has been the key to everything. And the way that I go about it is I think of it like this. I literally think about like I have an inner tank. And when it drops below a certain level, and then something happens in my reality, like somebody says something bad to me or something triggers me, then I don't have enough to cover it. It's like I've written a check and it's overdraft. So for me, it's all about continuously filling up that love tank, filling up my bank account, making deposits so that I'm out of the red and into a place where I'm filled up so that when something happens, it doesn't rock me. It doesn't affect me. I know who I am. So I have different rituals and things that I do in my everyday life for keeping that love tank nice and full.
Well, tell us about them.
Sure. Well, I mean, the one thing that's the most simple, I would say, is to constantly be looking at the good, what you want to celebrate within yourself, looking at what you appreciate in yourself. I make lists constantly. And I'll tell you something. This may sound a little scary when I first say it to most people, but what I do is I only focus on the things that I'm good at. I only focus on the things that I want to appreciate. Now, most people, when they hear that, they go, wait a minute, am I going to just be totally unself-aware? Am I going to just be walking around like this egomaniac who doesn't have any awareness? But the opposite happens. When you're only focusing on the things that you do well, the things that you appreciate and love about yourself, what happens is that you raise your vibration, you raise your consciousness level. And what I mean by vibration is just everything's made out of energy, everything has a frequency, and positive thoughts have a higher frequency. And what I mean by consciousness is just, your awareness, your self-awareness. So that's been one of my secrets, is that in my mind, when I start to go down that track of, I'm not doing this well and I'm not good enough, or comparing myself, when I notice, I just stop, I pause, and I do what I call pivoting. I literally just I pivot my consciousness, my train of thought to another direction towards, okay, well, what do I love about myself? What is positive? What am I doing well? And sometimes I have to start with the little things, like I got my daughter to school on time today, and she had a lunch, and it was organic, and I'm awesome. And I just celebrate all of the little tiny things until I can pick up speed and momentum and get myself into an upward spiral.
I think that's great, and it makes so much sense. It's such a simple thing. I think the awareness seems to be the key, and I want to talk about that. Like, how do you become so aware? Because here's what's happening in our heads. You're not good enough. Are you really going to wear that? Wow, you really aren't ever going to lose weight. You look fat. You're not, it's all of these vicious things that we say to ourselves every single day. You're not a good mom. I can't believe, you were almost late again. Even if you're on time, we were almost late. It's this constant running negative cycle. So how is it when that's going on in our heads that we can just stop and pivot, as you said? Like, how do we get that level of awareness or that level of just consciousness?
The only way out is up. It's raising your vibration. And I'm going to share another one of my secrets for raising my vibration is to reclaim what I call reclaiming my innocence. And what I find is most of us, especially as women, we have been carrying an ancient wound that goes back so deep, where we have bought into that on some level that we are guilty, that we are innately guilty in some way. And this has been reinforced by, you name it, our culture, society. And when I realized this, when I really saw this and got this, I made a choice. I made a decision to reclaim my innocence and say, no, I do not take this on. I choose to believe that I am good, that every cell of my being is good. No matter what I've done, no matter what my past looks like, I am good. And one of the visualizations that I like to do is just envision a little newborn baby. And when I look at it and think of a little newborn baby, I know that at my core, that's who I am. That's who each of us is. And I meditate and tap into the place within myself that we all have, the place within me that has never been hurt and that never could be, because that's home, that's our soul. And one of the things I do to reclaim that part of myself is I do what's called wiping the slate clean. And it's a really simple little exercise where you can literally take all of the things that you feel guilt and shame about, whether it's that you don't have enough money in your bank account, or you ate 10 Twinkies yesterday, or maybe it's something from your past, something from your childhood or your family that you're carrying, is I've given myself permission to say, you know what? These things do not define me. These are the things from my past, and I am innately good. And I am going to wipe my slate clean and allow myself to start anew in this moment. And so what I do is I write down anything that makes my heart fall into my stomach, anything that I feel guilty or bad about, any time that I was less than perfect or less than conscious. And I first have the awareness of writing it down, getting in touch with what it is, making a list, and then I burn it.
We do, and I think, the other thing that you mentioned, you talked about so much. First of all, that place of going home. I want to know how to get there. Like, is it on my GPS? Can you draw me a map? I want to talk about that. But I want to pause for just a second, because you seem to just have it all together. You seem to just love yourself. It seems so easy for you. And I know you, and I've known you for a while, and I know that it hasn't always been this way for you. And I know that you have a really powerful story. So just so we sort of, get it out that you weren't born this way, you didn't come out like just happy and loving yourself, and you've never had a bad day, can you just give us maybe the Reader's Digest version of your story?
Sure, I would love to. Well, first of all, yes, I want to say that today I am the most happy, peaceful, content. I have the most inner contentment that I have ever experienced in my entire life.
Wow.
And I feel so blessed for that. And when people hear where I've come from and how I got here, I think people are very often shocked. I had a very, very tumultuous childhood. I lived in a house with a lot of neglect, a lot of abuse. My stepfather was bipolar. My mother was pretty much absent. They were doing drugs, selling drugs, and I was molested at a very young age. To this day, I don't know if I've ever met anyone in person that had as low of self-esteem as I had. It was crippling. I had social anxiety that was so great I could hardly leave my home. I mean, I would have never in a million years thought I would be speaking on stage in front of thousands of people and on television. You could have never convinced me of that in a million years. And I had depression that was so great that at times I just wanted to leave my body. Even at the age of 7, I remember thinking, I wish I was dead. And that just snowballed into an eating disorder and being in debt in my life and looking for love and relationships that were really unhealthy. And then I had a spiritual awakening that came through holistic nutrition. When I balanced my physical body and got my physical body into alignment, I had a spiritual awakening. And then I realized that I could create my reality, that I was the master of my destiny, that I could get out of debt, that I could make money. And the more in alignment I got with my soul, with my truth, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in alignment, magic started to happen. And opportunities started to show up, and people started to show up. And I've found more and more flow and more inner peace in my life. But it's been, continual unfolding.
Well, what I hear from that is this is why you're the perfect teacher, because you've experienced so many of the things that we're all going through and have been through. And for me, it gives me hope, and my story is crazy as well. And when we first met, I was like, oh, yes,
yeah,
you get it. And you've taught me so many amazing things, which is why I wanted to share you with the world. I feel like maybe guilt and shame are only two pieces of the puzzle of the things that we take on at a young age. And all of these things continue. And I don't know, Rose, that we make that connection when we're older.
Yes. I believe that before the age of 7, when our consciousness is forming, that's when our identity and our beliefs get formed. And they pretty much get, cemented in those earlier stages. What you saw around you, what was going on, what the beliefs were of your parents and your family were like little sponges, and we take all of that on. And then as adults, we're kind of unwinding that. We have the opportunity to reparent ourselves. And if we choose, if we want, we don't have to. But I know for myself, what I did was I looked around, and whenever I saw myself unhappy or not experiencing peace, that was like my litmus test. That was like, oh, there's gold buried under here. There's a treasure buried under here in that area, whether it was in relationship or with my food or my body. Whenever I felt like I wasn't content or wasn't relaxed, like for me, relaxation that's my goal. And I find just the awareness and the searching will lead you on a journey, and to go and find the gold. And if you're brave enough, if you're curious enough to go and find that buried treasure, even just finding it and being able to just look at it, because I know for most of my life and most of us, as we get closer and the anxiety builds and we think, oh, there's something under here, there's an insecurity, or there's something that I feel shameful or bad for my past or my family. As we get close, then we kind of distract ourselves from it, whether it's shopping or eating or some people turn to sex or drugs or smoking or whatever. Those things are taking us away from the thing that's so painful. So I've had a practice of leaning in a little bit more, like when it gets uncomfortable. And I find that just looking at it, being able to have the awareness, looking at it and leaning into it instead of distracting myself, allowing myself to feel all of it, all of the pain, all of the beauty, crying it, mourning it, then you can go to the other side of it. Then you can bring that circle to completion and you can release it. And this is what I love about ritual. And again, I just define it as something that you do with intention. Anything can be a ritual. You know, we have things that are habitual, which is the opposite. Things that we're on autopilot.
Right.
Things that we've always done because we didn't know that there was another way. And that's the way our family did it. And that's the way everybody else in your area does it. But if you just take a moment to just pause with everything and ask yourself, is this my truth? Does this feed me? Do I like this? Do I want to get married? Do I want to have kids? Do I want to work at this job? Is this making me happy? Sometimes those simple questions can allow us to take a look and to see where we're out of alignment with our truth. And, you know, I have to say that this whole alignment thing can be a little bit dangerous because sometimes we have to blow up our life.
Yeah. This alignment piece that you keep talking about, and I hear you and very much understand that. I get that sometimes we put ourselves in positions because it's what we feel we should do. Sometimes we have children because it's what we should do. We get married. We married that person because it's what society expects of us. We wear these clothes. We work at this job. We do all of these things because it's just what we're supposed to do. Is that what causes this whole disconnect of this love with ourself? And I mean, is that where the self-hatred comes from? Is that the obstacle to self-love?
I believe it is. Yes, I believe that when we are out of alignment with our truth, with our soul, that it is so painful that it will make you go insane if you keep going in that direction. So I feel that peace, contentment, happiness, health is all an issue of alignment. That when we have disease, for instance, that's there's a message, there's a learning there, and it's about coming back into alignment. When we come into alignment, that's when healing and health and weight loss and happiness starts to occur. So
Easily, right?
Easily.
Thanks, Rose. So, Rose, one of the things that I always ask every guest, you know, the name of the show is what you're really hungry for. So I want to ask you today, what are you really hungry for?
What a beautiful question. And it's interesting. The more in alignment that I become, I find the less hungry I become, or the more fulfilled I am with so little. So that is really beautiful, that the ravenous hunger that I felt my whole life, I feel like isn't there anymore, that now I have this contentment and inner peace. But I would say if I was hungry for anything, it would be more celebration. That for me, finding the beauty in the little things. Like, I woke up this morning, I'm breathing, I have these beautiful flowers, I got to see you today. Just my little daughter, when I look in her face, I'm learning to really appreciate and savor the small things that are all around me and just celebrate. You know, it's so easy for, I think, most of us when things get hard and tough, because it's not like things don't show up. It's not like challenges don't show up. But I'm able to surrender to them more, so more surrender. And now I'm able to kind of switch things and go, okay, how do I celebrate even in this moment? And bringing in that element of celebration is the juicy step for me.
That's beautiful, and not what I was expecting you to say. So thank you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your beautiful message with us, with the world, and for all the work that you've done and continue to do, because it's helped me. It helps so many people just, again, get home, to finally find that self-approval and that love. So thank you for being you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. You're magic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. This week is all about self-approval and learning to love yourself even when you don't. So I invite you to choose one of the tips that Rose discussed during our show and start implementing it in your life today. What can you do to discover who you really are, to discover what you really love, to discover what you're really hungry for? What can you do to start to love yourself today? As always, the conversation continues at cynthiapasquella.com. Head on over and leave a comment below this video telling me the one thing that you will do to start approving of yourself today. And while you're there, make sure you download today's free menu to track your progress. You'll find inspirational quotes from today's show and a daily checklist to keep you on track. It's located right below this video at cynthiapasquella.com. Did you like this video? If you did, please subscribe. And I would be so grateful if you would share this video with your friends. And if you want to hear more from me, including stuff I only talk about in email, then come on over to cynthiapasquella.com and sign up for my email newsletter so you can be a part of this beautiful community of women who are discovering what they're really hungry for. Hi, I'm Cynthia Pasquella, the creator and host of What You're Really Hungry For. Now, throughout this season, we've seen industry leaders share what they're really hungry for, as well as the revolutionary ways that that's changed everything for them, including the way they look at health, life, and weight loss. And now you can do the same. I'm so excited to announce the 7-Day Hungry Challenge, where you'll discover what you're really hungry for. You'll also learn how to get rid of those excess pounds that you've been carrying around for a while now, and nothing you've seemed to do has worked. We're going to help you get rid of all of those and more, as well as create the life that you've always imagined. Now look, being overweight or having those excess pounds has nothing to do with food or willpower. And during the 7-Day Challenge, you're going to learn to get to the root cause of what it does have to do with so that you can heal your relationship with food for good. To learn more about this exciting 7-Day Hungry Challenge and to get started, simply visit 7dayhungrychallenge.com. You'll find all the information you need there in order to join this exciting community of people who are finally letting go of their struggle with food and self-esteem and self-worth and discovering what they're really hungry for so that those pounds can melt off, the weight can be lifted, and you can finally start to live the life of your dreams in the body of your dreams. So again, head over to 7dayhungrychallenge.com and sign up to join me. And finally, thank you so much for your amazing support of our show. We've been able to reach so many with your help, and for that, I am super, super grateful. And stay tuned because we are just getting started. Season 2 is going to be coming out very soon with more inspiring guests sharing their simple strategies on how you can create that body and life of your dreams. And of course, how you can continue to discover what you're really hungry for. This episode is brought to you by the Institute of Transformational Nutrition. Discover the secrets to becoming a go-to expert in nutrition coaching while making great money on the side or even enjoying a new career at www.transformationalnutrition.com. On next week's episode of What You're Really Hungry For. What is brain fog exactly?
Well, I guess the layman's terms, the way I like to put it, is you just don't feel like yourself. So if you're somebody who's saying, I just don't feel like myself, you're probably experiencing brain fog. So let me tell you something you may be diagnosed with that I consider brain fog. ADHD, anxiety, depression,